everybody, this is Maxine Taylor, and today my topic is Mercury retrograde, the prequel and the sequel. Now, some of you know where I'm headed with this, but in the interest of including everybody, meaning those who don't study astrology, let me just start from the beginning and explain everything. Mercury is the planet of communication, correspondence, and transportation. It rules our mouth and our minds, okay? 3 times a year, it goes retrograde, and some people say retrograde. It goes retrograde, meaning it appears to be moving backwards in the heavens. It's not, but it appears that way, and that's how it feels here on planet Earth. Everything relating to our mouth and our minds, to communication and moving around, everything seems to go haywire. That's because this is the opportunity for us to rethink, revamp, and plan. We do not begin a new project under a retrograde Mercury because the project either fizzles out completely or has to be redone within the year. And this is just what's so. Now, I know that some of you have told me that you don't feel the retrograde Mercury, and that's perfectly okay. Those of us who are empaths feel it really, really strongly. You do not have to feel it. Some of you plow right through it with terrific success, and bravo to you. So, my question to you, my friends, is, have some of you noticed that you begin to feel the effects of the retrograde Mercury a week to 2 weeks before it actually goes retrograde? That's the prequel. It's the pre-shadow of the retrograde Mercury. Then it goes retrograde. And when it goes direct, everybody goes, hip, hip, hooray, except that it is still in the shadow of the retrograde Mercury, which means that we have symptoms of the retrograde Mercury. This is the sequel. Now, today is June 19th, 2019. And I had all these charts prepared to illustrate this, and they got very confusing. And I thought, let me just simplify it for everybody. Starting tomorrow, June 20th, when Mercury is in 23 degrees of Cancer, that is when the prequel begins. That's when the pre-retrograde shadow officially begins. And once again, some of you are starting to feel it. And on tomorrow, the 20th of June, not only do we enter the pre-retrograde shadow, but Mercury is conjunct Mars. Now, Mars is action, Mars is energy, Mars is arguing, and Mercury is communication. So there can be lots of confusion, there can be arguing. My suggestion to everybody is that if you're upset with somebody, you hold your opinion until we come out of the sequel shadow. And that's a long time. I know. It's easy for me to sit here and say that, especially since I'm the one that usually just blurts everything out. And I don't take my own advice. So tomorrow, the shadow, the pre-shadow, the pre-retrograde shadow begins. Remember the degree, 23 degrees of Cancer. Those of you who don't study astrology, don't worry about it. I'm speaking to people who do study astrology and those who don't. All you got to know is that you're going to start feeling this retrograde Mercury tomorrow. Okay. Then, as Mercury slows down and it moves into and up to 4 degrees of Leo, which it does on July 7th. That's when it's stationary retrograde. This is when Mercury stops its forward movement. And on the 8th, it begins its retrograde movement, its backward movement. Once again, Mercury is conjunct Mars. There can be impatience. There can be arguing. You'll see it in government. You'll see it in politics. You may see it within yourself. Okay, for Leo. So the 2 degrees that we're looking at, 23 Cancer and 4 of Leo. Okay, you with me so far? All right, that's July 7th. And so retrograde Mercury starts backing up and backing up and backing up until it reaches 23 degrees of Cancer. Okay, that was when the shadow began. And so Mercury goes direct, it goes stationary retrograde on July 31st and direct on August 1st. It is a new moon, interestingly enough, at that time. And Mercury's in 23 degrees of Cancer. The new moon is in 8 Leo, very close to the Mercury going direct, which it will hit that point in a couple of days. And you might say, yay, Mercury is direct. I can put my new plans into operation. And you want to see in your own birth chart where Mercury goes direct. However, my suggestion to you, if you can possibly wait, and I know there's a long time, if you can wait until August 15th, don't shoot the messenger. When Mercury gets back to the degree at which it went retrograde, which was for Leo, that is when it comes out of the sequel, the shadow of the retrograde. And interestingly enough, there just happens to be a full moon that day on August 15th. It's in 22 degrees of Aquarius. However, a full moon is when everything pops, everything comes to a head. And so when Mercury comes out of the shadow of the retrograde, we can celebrate on a full moon. So, once again, the shadow, the prequel shadow, begins on June 20th. Mercury goes retrograde on July 7th, 8th, right in that time period. It goes direct July 31st, August 1st, on the new moon, and comes out of the shadow of the retrograde on August 15th. So you figure 2 weeks before the retrograde, 2 weeks after the retrograde. Now, during this time, of course, use it. Don't start a new project, but use it to tie up the loose ends of unfinished projects. And I think this shadow can explain to us why so often we say, well, I started a project, Mercury was direct, but the project fizzled out. That's because we were still in the shadow of the retrograde. So I hope this helps you. Sorry if the 2 weeks prior and the 2 weeks afterward are a long time. However, if you know this, you can rework your plans. You can tie up the loose ends of unfinished business. You can forgive people who show up late to a luncheon meeting or forget it totally, because after all, Mercury's retrograde. So with that in mind, once again, I wish you a happy retrograde Mercury and the blessings of coming out of the retrograde. So may the stars shine brightly on you and yours. Bye for now.